Welcome to Third Floor Views, a production of Chesapeake Family Life, where we talk about health, education, and living with kids. I'm your host, Janet Jefferson. Today, we're talking about the Baltimore Women's Circle, and joining us is Rachel Graham, and she is a life coach and the founder of the Baltimore Women's Circle. Thank you so much, Rachel, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
To our viewers, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in the chat and we'll get to as many of those as we can. Rachel, let's jump right in. So first, let's get into the meat of it. Can you just tell us what is the Baltimore Women's Circle and what do you do?
Yes. Well, simply put, the Baltimore Women's Circle is a community of women and anyone who likes to play in that feminine energy. And we meet about every other week, every new moon and every full moon. And I mean, it's just a time for women to connect, to be seen, to have fun, to laugh. And we tie in some rituals, some ceremonies so that we can connect, but we can really connect on a deeper level where we really get a chance to share what we're creating, what's new, any new intentions we're bringing into the world, that's very much like new moon energy, and also what we're completing, what we're celebrating, what we've achieved, and that's very full moon energy. So yeah, it's a community and it's an opportunity to connect with other women.
So who would you say that the group is for?
It is, I want to say it is for everyone because that's truly the intention of this group. But it is a women's circle and it's for women of all backgrounds, all ages. That's something that's really important to me, is that this is open to everyone. And even if you don't even identify as a woman, but you really like playing with that feminine energy, you're so welcome. Acceptance and inclusivity is a big part of this women's circle, and really creating a space where we can kind of take away the labels and just connect as humans, as women. So yeah, it's for everyone.
So the what I'm hearing from you is sort of one of the main reasons to join or be part of it is that powerful community, and that making sure that you are having those feelings of connection and support, and having this be a welcoming, safe space to just sort of explore what's going on in your life at the time.
Yeah, totally. What I noticed in myself and also what I've noticed in others is that many of us are really just craving deeper connection, where we're actually experiencing that sisterhood support, where we actually get to be vulnerable, where we actually get to share what we're excited about and also what we are being challenged by. So yeah, it's a space for all of that. And it's a space where, we get to chit chat and talk about stuff kind of on the surface level, but we also get to go deeper, which is also really important to me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When people are joining, and I guess that's maybe my first question is, can you join at any point? Or are there sort of natural cycles that it's like, okay, we're starting a new circle and this is a time for people to come together, and now we're wrapping this up and we're closing it and then we'll start another? Or is it just sort of open and free flowing and you can come when you want?
Yeah, it's totally free flowing, like very, very much feminine energy where you can just come whenever and join. New people are joining the Facebook group, the Baltimore Women's Circle, every day. And then in terms of the actual gatherings, we are growing quickly. So what started out as a gathering at my home with like 5 to 10 people it's now turned into a group of over 100 people. So we are moving to a bigger space and navigating, that physical location, creating a space that can fit everyone. But yeah, everyone and anyone can join at any point.
So then how does that work in terms of facilitation? I can see, if there's only 5 or 10 people, you can literally sit in a circle together and have a conversation. But if you have 100 people, what does that look like? And what does an actual session look like?
Yeah. So at this point, we haven't had a circle of 100 people yet, although I would love to explore that as we grow. But basically, as big as the circle has been, we come together at a certain point in a circle, but we've also played with creating like breakout circles. So
Mm,
smaller circles of maybe 3 to 4 people. But when we do gather in the big circle, it usually involves a meditation of sorts, a moment for reflection, journaling, and then everyone gets the chance to share what came up for them and be heard and seen one at a time.
mhm. That makes a lot of sense. I could see if it's a huge group feeling like your voice could get lost, but then there's also so much power in a huge group and seeing that you're all there working on the same purpose in terms of feeling each other's, being there as a support. So there's something so beautiful in a big group, but then I could see
Mm.
how that could be a challenge too. Um, when people are coming, are they often bringing specific challenges they're working on? Is that something that is being discussed, or is it just something a little bit more open, like maybe a yoga class where you're working on your own thing, but maybe the rest of the class doesn't know that unless you're choosing to share?
Mm.
What is And then when people, if they are voicing like, oh, this is a challenge I'm having, um, what are some of the common challenges that you're hearing?
Yeah, well, I would say on a basic level, a lot of people who come to the circle are feeling disconnected in their
Mm.
lives. That's why they're showing up. They want community. They're desiring friendship, but they don't know, where to go or how to meet people. So some of those challenges certainly come up, and that's the beauty of coming into this circle and everyone getting to witness that and also say, yeah, me too. I'm feeling that way too. And aside from that, it varies what people are being challenged with, whether it's confidence, whether it's, a breakup, whether it's starting a new job or moving to a new city. Lots of people who have joined are new to Baltimore. So that definitely varies, but we definitely find a common thread in people who are just really wanting more connection and wanting, yeah, connection.
I can definitely see, particularly in the past few years with COVID and this intense sense of isolation, and separateness from everyone, family and friends, that could be a really common craving. How did the Baltimore Women's Circle come about, and how long have you been meeting?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it came about from my own need. For a couple years, even a little bit before COVID, had been feeling disconnected from other women and really wanting more friendship. But again, just not knowing how to meet people and also just meet people who shared common interests, and also meeting people who would maybe bring me into new worlds and show me new interests. So it really started out that way. This past February, I was feeling really low and I was looking for community and I couldn't find it. And down the line in 2021, I realized, if you can't find what you want, it's a sign to create it. So we are new. The Baltimore Women's Circle started this past August, and we have been meeting every other week since then.
That sounds really exciting. What are your current goals for the Baltimore Women's Circle?
Mm. Well, my current goals are certainly to, continue to create and facilitate a space where, lifelong friendships are formed. Women feel that supportive community, especially because, we've talked about this in certain circles where this concept of the sisterhood wound, where I think just about every woman can relate to feeling either judged, rejected, by another woman, or hurt by another woman, betrayed by another woman. And so to me, the overall vision and goal is to create a space for that friendship to occur, and also some healing around that wound. And so a space where you can feel supported and you can feel that trust with other women. So that's the overall goal. But when I look forward into the future, the goal is to keep this intimate, but also expand into workshops, into events, and, move into a space where we can co-create as women. So it's not just me behind it. The circle we have tomorrow, I'm actually not leading it. I have two friends who are leading, which is really great. And I can see this turning into something where we co-create with other small businesses and we get to support local brands. So
Mhm.
yeah, lots of exciting goals that are coming up.
So we talked a little bit about common challenges that women are bringing to the circle. Do you have anything that you're encouraging people not to bring? So you've talked about being super inclusive and kind, but are there any ground rules or anything that you're like, you know what, let's not talk about this, or let's leave this at home?
Mm, everything is on the table. And in order for that to be possible, though, there are some core values of this group, of this women's circle. One being that, there are going to be a lot of people coming into this group from different backgrounds, and naturally they're going to have different perspectives. And so one of the core values is that you honor someone else for who they are as a being. And even when you maybe notice like a little judgy voice in your head, just like acknowledging it, and committing to being accepting of others, honoring others. But this is a space where we don't have to, hide what we're feeling or what we're thinking. What I believe is that we need more spaces like this where we can bring it all out. And we can have all parts of us seen and accepted through whatever we're going through.
Um, do you see Baltimore Women's Circle as being unique, or do you see it as being tied to this bigger concept of sisterhood and women supporting women and the idea of women's circles? Where does it sort of fall in the sphere of being different and doing its own thing, or fitting within something else larger?
Mm. I definitely think it's fitting into something larger, like the shift we're seeing where women are supporting women and creating communities like this. For me, I had been a part of similar spaces, but they were all online, and I was really craving in-person connection. So, in ways that it's different, it's local. So we get to be in person together. And yeah, aside from that, I think it is, very similar to what's being seen in other cities, bigger cities like LA, New York, Austin.
Have you gotten any pushback from being in person? Has anyone asked, like, I really want to join, but I'm not quite comfortable yet. Can we do something online? Or have people just been like, oh, thank goodness
Mm,
it's in person. This is exactly what I needed.
yeah, I haven't received any pushback, although I'm so open to, creating, a space online as well. But yeah, the general consensus is that people are just so excited to be in person, because there's just a different energy when you're in person together.
Mhm, mhm. Do you have any leads on a larger space that you might be using this winter, especially as the weather gets a little chilly?
I do. I've been speaking with several different yoga studios in the area. And what we'll be doing actually is I have a workshop planned for December 4th in Towson, Maryland at Four Warriors Yoga. So this is going to be our experiment in playing and hosting this circle as a workshop, but also in a yoga studio. So yeah, that's happening in 2 weeks from now.
That's exciting. Um,
Yeah.
Taking a step back and thinking more about the big picture questions. Like, why would you say women's circles are important, and what role do they play? And we touched on this a little bit, but I guess one question I would have is, like, let's say you come across somebody who's like, oh, I don't know that I need that. What would you tell
Yeah.
them? Why is this such an important project to be working on?
Yeah. I would say, when I look back at how women gathered, centuries ago, or even in different cultures, there's often like a ceremony or a gathering where women come together and it's just women. And a lot of times that has to do with the female cycle, and learning about, women coming together in this way where it just felt very ceremonial, very supportive, very nurturing. It really struck a chord with me personally, where I was like, whoa, I would really love to have that support, something that we don't really see in modern society, where women go off together to have this experience and to receive this support. So I mean, I personally find that it's really important, not only because we get that experience, but also because, if you're in partnership, it can be a lot to expect your partner to give you everything and to meet all of your needs, which is something that I kind of fell into in my early 20s. And for that reason, it's important to have friendship. It's important to have different relationships in your life. But I mean, ultimately, if someone's like, I don't know about it, that's totally cool. I'm not here to convince anyone, but if you are feeling like you are craving that, then I would say explore it, especially because as women, we are cyclical beings, and it can just be really supportive to have a space where you are flowing with the different cycles of your life, but also like, new moon, full moon. So yeah, I'd say there are a lot of benefits to it.
You said that in a meeting that you will talk about some surface level stuff and, have that sort of lighter conversation, but then you'll also dive into deeper topics. What are some of the deeper topics that you've discussed at the women's circles?
hmm Yeah, so we have talked about, for instance, the sisterhood wound. So acknowledging times when you felt judged, hurt, rejected by other women, what that was like for you, whether you were on the receiving end, whether you were maybe on the giving end, and having a chance to explore what that was like, and what came up for you. So that has come up, and other natural things have come up through organic shares. So someone sharing what they're really celebrating in themselves could spur a conversation or a discussion into something else, whether it has to do with, like I said earlier, like a breakup or starting a new job. But we definitely look forward to having these shares, but also creating more discussion around how we get to show up as women in the world. Like, we live in a very masculine dominated society. It's very much doing, doing, doing. So one topic that I'm really interested in is, how do we show up in a new way? Like, how can we show up be mothers, be business owners, be, friends, and be accomplishing so much. But how can we approach it maybe from more of a feminine energy
Hmm.
where we're slowing down and we're also creating? So lots of fun different topics can come up, and naturally it's like very organic. The fun part of this process is there is, living in a very structured world, we take a little structure out of this process.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds really exciting. It also sounds so inclusive in terms of a lot of the questions or deeper dive discussions that you have. It could apply to anyone at any stage in life. So no matter where you are in your career or where you are in terms of your relationships, or whether that be with a partner or with family members, it
Mm,
sounds, if one of your questions was, what are you celebrating? That could be applied to anybody,
mm,
for at any age. And I think, I could see maybe someone being hesitant to join just because they don't quite know what to expect, and maybe they're worried that they're not going to fit in, whatever that looks like. But those big open-ended questions clearly are um, applicable to anyone, and so that could feel very warm and welcoming.
yes. Yeah,
Um,
I'm glad you mentioned that, like not knowing what to expect and feeling a little nervous to show up, because that's, in these shares, people have shared that exact thing.
oh,
And
really?
yeah, the exact same thing. And yeah, it's been really great because so many people are coming and not knowing anyone. And so, just for anyone who might be interested in coming, a lot of times, it's just people showing up and they don't know anyone. And while friendships are forming, um, I do want to emphasize that it's very open and welcoming. I think with that sisterhood wound, I think some of us can be, remember times when we went into a situation and it was clicky. But yeah, it's very, very normal and natural to be wondering, like, what are we going to do?
Right. The interest in this group has just exploded in terms of at least your social media following. People seem to really be craving this. And you've talked a little bit about planning for larger groups and possibly expanding and offering different workshops or trainings later down the line. What do you see? How to accommodate all those people? And clearly that there is this need that is out there right now that is not being met. Where does Baltimore Women's Circle fit into that? And like, do you see yourself being this like mega circle and having all these little groups that are offshoots, or is it just this much more organic thing that continues to flow and you just sort of see where it goes?
Yeah. I mean, I could say yes to both of those things. I think it will definitely expand, and it will naturally probably have offshoots, and will also just kind of flow and see what happens. Luckily for now, what I'm really inviting is that everyone who joins gets an opportunity to be a part of creating this and where it goes. And so this very much is a co-creation. So it'll really depend on um, not only me, but whatever anyone else brings to the table.
Mhm. Um, how is this maybe different than just a group of friends sitting around, friends that are all women? But what is this? How does this give back in a way that might be different than that?
Yeah. I'd say, I mean, it's very similar to friends coming together and sitting around in the circle. The thing that I see is different is the intention that's coming into it, going that's really structuring this space so that there is intention, there is ritual, there is ceremony, in a sense, so that people feel that grounded, safe energy space where it's like, this is your time where you get to share and to open up. And because of that intention, because of the rituals that go into this process, what ends up happening is that whenever someone is sharing, everyone is like 100% present with that person, just listening and receiving whatever they're sharing. And while that can happen in friendship, I mean, I've certainly had times with friends where it's like, and everyone's like talking and excited. But sometimes we need that space where we get to just be heard.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
I have one question that I've been mulling over, and I still can't decide how I feel about the question itself. But I'm going to throw it at you.
Love it.
Do men need this? Is this something that because women have struggled for so long to be heard and often don't have the voice or the equality that they need in not only American culture, but maybe even larger world culture. It's so clear that this is a need for women, but do men need this as well? And if so, what does that look like?
100%. Yes, men definitely need it as well. And like, all people, whatever you identify as. But yeah, definitely. And for now, it's kind of funny what's been happening as a result of these women's circles is my boyfriend has a joke that he's creating like these like instead of a women's circle, a men's square. So this like natural, like organic, like subset of a
Oh.
community is forming as a result of what I'm creating. So I do think that like the more that women create these spaces, men are also doing the same thing
Mhm.
as a result. But I would say it's like very important too for them as well.
I love it that he couldn't even be a circle as well. He had to be a square. That's hysterical.
I know. So we'll see. Maybe that'll turn into a Facebook group and an official men's square down the
Um,
line.
my last question for you is, how do you get involved? If someone wants to join the Baltimore Women's Circle, or maybe even learn more about women's circles, what should they do?
Yeah. So you can follow or join the Facebook page, which is just Baltimore Women's Circle on Facebook. And I'd say that's a great first step. I also have a newsletter, which is in the Facebook group, but it's rachelgraham.co/women's circle. And aside from that, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'm mostly active on Instagram and my handle is at rachelgraham.co. Um, and then I'd say like, even if you're not in Baltimore, you're still super welcome to come and to join. And maybe if you want to create your own women's circle, just know that it's as easy as like putting the intention out there, creating a group and just sharing the message.
Mhm, mhm. Well, thank you so much, Rachel Graham, for all of your experience and sharing what you know about women's circles and specifically the Baltimore Women's Circle. Thank you also to all of our viewers and listeners today. Make sure that you visit ChesapeakeFamily.com for up-to-date local information on home, health, and living for today's Maryland parent. This episode will be archived on ChesapeakeFamily.com in both video and podcast format. And on that page, you'll also find links to, that Rachel mentioned. So how to connect with Baltimore Women's Circle. I'm Janet Jefferson with Chesapeake Family Life and Third Floor Views. Thanks so much. All right, we are off live. Thank you, Rachel. That was fantastic.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, that was great.
Okay, so what's next from me? This is going to be rendering on Facebook and rendering on with Zoom, and I'm going to get this up on to our page, Chesapeake Family, as fast as possible. So that will be probably this afternoon. So then I'm going to send that link over to you, so you'll have the page on Chesapeake Family, the link. And then it's yours to do whatever you want with. So if you want to promote it on your social media, or if you want to put it up on your website or whatever you want, it's yours. And then, as I said, we are going to put this into a podcast format. So what that's going to be is just slight editing, and it will be just audio only. And that will be up